Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone and to my first weekend preview of the season. Yeah, can't wait for this one. The Premier League is back and we're going to start things off with Brentford versus Arsenal. Brentford's first ever game into the Premier League and I can't wait for this one. Just the momentum behind Brentford. I think this is going to be a much harder game to predict than you may have thought. Arsenal, yeah, they've had an up and down pre-season, but I really do fancy Brentford to nick something from this. I'm going to say 1-1. Manchester United take on Leeds at Old Trafford on Saturday. And yeah, this is another interesting one. Marcelo Bielsa finally signing his new Leeds contract the other day. But Manchester United, I think it's fair to say they've had a pretty solid summer so far with the signing of Jadon Sancho and Varane. However, it looks like just Sancho will play here. But still, Leeds need to improve against the Big Six. I don't think they will here, though. I think United will have enough. I'm going to say a 2-0 Man United win. Burnley take on Brighton at Turf Moor. And this is another interesting one. Two teams who have had, you could kind of say, up and down pre-seasons. Brighton obviously leading Ben White. Burnley, yeah, I've just not been totally convinced by their incoming. So this is quite a hard one to predict. I think it will be quite a tense and early game, but I'm going to say a 1-1 draw in the end, and the teams will share the spoils. Chelsea take on Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge, and yeah, this is another interesting one. Obviously, Chelsea winning the Super Cup in the week, but it will be interesting to see how much that win took out of them. Obviously, going to extra time and penalties against Crystal Palace team who should be fresh. However, as we know, they are missing a number of key players with the likes of Lisi and Eze out. So yeah, I don't think it will be as easy as people expect for Chelsea, but I do think Chelsea will get the win. I'm going to say 1-0. Everton host Southampton at Goodison Park, and for me, this is another really interesting game. It'll be really interesting to see the reception Rafa Benitez gets at Everton, and you do feel like he needs a really fast start, otherwise things could start to get a bit toxic at Goodison Park. And as for Southampton, yeah, they're kind of looking in a bit of a rocky patch at the moment. Obviously bringing him out of Armstrong was a good signing, but yeah, losing the likes of Danny Ings, I'm just not sure about Southampton, so I'm going to say 2-0 to Everton. Leicester host Wolves at the King Power Stadium on Saturday, I think. And yeah, this is another really interesting game. Brendan Rodgers, obviously, he's done a great job once again. A few decent signings in through the door. And then over at Wolves, it's Bruno Lage's first game at the club. So yeah, this is an interesting one. But even with a new manager bounce, I do think Leicester will have slightly too much here. I'm going to say a 2-1 home win. Watford are back in the Premier League this Saturday at 3 o'clock against Aston Villa. And yeah, this is another really interesting one. Watford, I think it's fair to say they've had a pretty okay summer. They made some decent signings. Aston Villa obviously very up and down, losing Jack Grealish, but of course bringing some quality players, Leon Bailey, Danny Ings. But yeah, I think they are the better side, but I think Watford, just having the momentum being back in the Premier League may hold them. I'll say 1-1. Norwich take on Liverpool at Carrow Road in a game that I'm really looking forward to. Norwich obviously losing Buendia, but on the back of promotion, and I would say they've reinvested that money pretty well. So yeah, I'm quite interested to see what they do this season against the Liverpool side, who obviously have Virgil van Dijk back. They've only made one big signing on Konate. I think it may take them a while to get up to speed, really. But I do think they do have enough to get the win here. I'm going to say 2-0. Newcastle take on West Ham at St James's Park, and this is another interesting one. As of the time of recording, Newcastle has failed to bring anyone in yet. However, there are reports that Joe Willock is set to join the club, and that's a great signing after what he did at the end of last season, but is likely to be unavailable, which really gives West Ham the advantage here, I think. Yeah, they've managed to bring in a few decent players, and I think that will be enough to get them the win here. I'm going to say 2-1. Tottenham take on Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday, and obviously the whole big story around this is Harry Kane. Won't he play? I've got a suspicion he might start on the bench. with rumours of Man City going in for another bid for him. But yeah, either way, I just think there's such a gulf in quality between the two sides at the moment. I can only see it really going one way, and that's a comfortable 2-0 City win. Peterborough take on Derby at the London Stadium this Saturday, and this is another really interesting one. Now we're moving into the Championship. Peterborough, of course, getting hammered in their first game back in the Championship. Really a wake-up call. But it'll be interesting to see how they respond. Derby, obviously, they're not in the best of shapes, so I do think they will be able to respond with a win. I'm going to say 1-0. Then moving on to Oakwell, where Barnsley take on Coventry. Barnsley, I think they got a solid result last time out against Cardiff away. Tough place to go, solid draw. But Coventry, a 2-1 win against Forest, which is a really great result for them. But did lose to Northampton in the week in the Cup. But I still do think Barnsley, just looking at the quality of the two squads, I do think they will have enough to get the win here. I'm going to say 2-0. Birmingham take on Stoke at St Andrews. But obviously this game has kind of been overshadowed by everything that's happening with Birmingham stadiums. It all seems like a bit of an omni-shambles. But yeah, we're here to talk about football. And both sides got off to a winning start last week against two tough oppositions. Stoke defeating Reading 3-2 in the Mag game and winning their Carabao Cup game. Birmingham beating Sheffield United away, which is an incredible result, and winning their Carabao Cup game. Which means one thing, this is going to be a dull 0-0, I just fear that. Blackburn take on Cardiff at Oakwell. And yeah, this is Bloomfield Road, sorry. I don't know why I said Oakwell. But yeah, this is a really interesting one. Blackpool, a really solid point last time out against Bristol City, but Cardiff on the back of a 1-1 draw with Barnsley. I think they'll really want to get their season going. And if you look at the two squads, I think even Blackpool fans will admit Cardiff's squad is stronger, which is why I think they will get the win here. Huddersfield take on Fulham at the Kirklees Stadium. In what should be an interesting game. Huddersfield, they've had a mixed start to the season, you could say, really. Won their cup game, but only drew with Derby. Obviously, the COVID outbreak didn't help, but you really expect them to be winning this. Fulham are held by Middlesbrough, but I do fancy them to start winning games, really, from here on in. So I'm going to say 2-0 Fulham win. Hull take on QPR in a game that I'm really intrigued to see. Obviously, Hull, newly promoted side, they got off to a dream start last week, absolutely thrashing Preston, and I think that's just given everyone a massive lift at Hull. But QPR, obviously we know what a good side they are this year, and they only were held by Millwall, you could say, last week, so they'll be out to try and get another win. But I think this will be quite an entertaining game. I'm going to say no team will break the deadlock, and I'm going to say 1-1. Middlesbrough take on Bristol City at the Riverside. And yeah, this is another interesting one. Middlesbrough, I think they will be very happy with their score last week. A 1-1 draw at Fulham was a great result for them. As for Bristol City, I think it's fair to say the season hasn't quite gone as planned for them so far. Draw against Blackpool and a loss against Forest Green. So yeah, they'll really want to get their first win of the season. However, I do think Borough do have that bit more quality here. I'm going to say a 1-0 home win. Millwall take on Blackburn at the Den. In another game I'm really interested to see. Blackburn, obviously I still don't believe they've signed any players yet. Adam Armstrong's game, he didn't feature last week, so I don't think it'll make too much difference. But yeah, I think they will want to get some signings in ASAP. Because at the moment, I just feel like their squad's a bit too weak, which is why I can see Millwall getting a win here. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 home win. Nottingham Forest take on Bournemouth at the City Ground. And yeah, this is an interesting one. Forest, obviously losing their first game, they'll be really disappointed with that, but did win the Carabao Cup. And then Bournemouth, they got off to an okay start, you could say, last week against West Brom. It was a really entertaining game, but I think it just showed the quality they had. But I think they may be held again here. I'm going to say 2-2. Reading take on Preston at the Medeski Stadium. Sorry, the Select Car Leasing Stadium. Weird name change. But anyway, yeah, this is an interesting one. Preston and Reading both losing their first games of the season, so they'll definitely want to bounce back from that as soon as possible. Reading, obviously the squad's still seriously depleted, however they have been able to complete one or two signings, I believe. And Preston, yeah, they really need a wake-up call after last week's thrashing. However, I think Reading will have the quality here. I'm going to say 2-0. West Brom take on Luton at the Hawthorns in a game that I'm really, really excited about. Obviously, we saw what Luton can do last week in the comfortable win over Peterborough, so I don't think this will be a walkover for Valérien Ismaël's men. However, they did look quite impressive last time out in the league, but I do think they still have to be considered favourites, but I think it'll be a tougher game than people think. I'm going to say 2-0. Swansea take on Sheffield United at Liberty Stadium. Sorry, the Swansea.com Stadium. That was a stupid name change, but there we are. And yeah, this is a game that I'm really looking forward to. Swansea losing their first game, but did beat Reading 3-0 in the week. And Sheffield United losing to Birmingham. So both teams who you kind of expect to be up there at the end of the season losing their first game. So I think for this is all about one or even both of these teams trying to pick up their first points of the season. I think both teams will, but it will only be 1 point, 1-1. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, comments down below, and follow me on this link in the description below for daily football news, and subscribe to my channel and square around now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.